Hello and welcome. This is a continuation of the Koforia Technical University Tech Leads programming class. We focus on how to build a basic progressive web application, and in the process, we hope to touch on how to design our front-end website with Bootstrap 4 and communicate with the Express API over REST using MongoDB as our storage backend. If you are new to this class or following it only on YouTube, then you should go check out the written parts first. They'll be in the link in the description below. The link to the completed application is the memfa.kofi.com, and it is currently running that you can play with yourself. This is the application. You register and then you get in there to start using it. Good. And then you come to your dashboard. Here you can add whatever device you have in mind, the serial number, and then you specify whether it's with you, the name of the person, myself, and then your contact. So this might be my contact. I save, and then we have the item we just added listed in our devices. When it's green, it means it belongs with us. It's not been stolen. When we want to change whether it's stolen or not, we simply click on it, and that changes it to stolen, and therefore this item will be available to search and find. Exactly. That means if anyone has reported the item as stolen, it's going to show here. Now that was the project, and this is the experience that was achieved as a result of the project. This web series is going to explain how the code behind is working and how things are. So let's jump into the code and see how to get started. If we want to communicate with our API endpoint, we basically need to set up our Express. We have to also install our MongoDB, and that will be up to you to figure it out yourself how to install MongoDB. But this is how to install Express. It is straightforward as installing the Express generator and then using it to create your new application. Now we don't need any view engine or something of that sort, because we're going to build an Express API, so we don't have use for those templates. With that, you should get a folder structure like this. Let me quickly go over the folder structure to help us all understand what each part is doing. The bin is actually contains the www file, which sets up our application and runs it and listens for requests, passing it to the actual beef of the application to handle the logic involved. Therefore, when we make a request to our local host with a port of 3021, this application will accept that request and process it. Models refers to we want to build a schema, and by schema we mean we want to restrain what enters our database and try to enforce some rules. A typical example would be our user model. Now we have a user model, a user schema, which basically says anything from the front end coming in with username, full name, email, hash password only can exist in the database. We want to give it a structure, and that's what schema does for us. With that in mind, we are also able to enforce certain features or properties, such as we want it to be a string only, we want it to be unique, as in the value for this username should be unique and shouldn't match anything else in the database. It should be a lowercase. That means whatever string that comes in will be converted to a lowercase. We want to trim it. It should be required that username field can be empty, and then it should have a minimum length of 3. Now that is a schema we try to enforce for the user model, and then we create a database, or we create a collection, as MongoDB refers to it, which a user collection which will contain our user objects. Basically, this is the schema we need for user, and that is what we mean by a model. If you've tried Django or Ruby of that sort, there's a similar idea in trying to get an actual schema for your database, so that nothing goes in, nothing comes out. You can have a clean database and all that. Public, we're going to go into that later on, but it's basically the templates we send when someone creates an account. We send them an email, please can you verify. This is the file that will be sent to the user to verify. We have routes. Now this is where we are actually doing our API stuff, where we take the request that comes in and we handle it. Let's take a look at the user codes. For instance, this user codes is going to kick in when the user makes a request to this endpoint. So when the user makes a request to something like localhost 3021 /API v1 /code, yes, code, and then user codes, this entire block of code will be run. If the request was a get to this, as in the request method was a get like this block of code will kick into action. It will first check to see if the user login is required, and then if it's not required, go ahead to go through the MongoDB database to see if it will find that code ID. It'll find codes that has been created by a user. Now that is how come when you come here, you are only able to see items you have added yourself and nothing else from other people, because it is using my user ID, my logged in user ID, to determine all the codes that have been created by me and then retrieve that for me. We sort it using this sort method, and then that is returned in the form of this JSON response. We're going to go over how that happens in the front end to see how we're actually manipulating the stuff over there. I think I need to write down that one down here. Front end manipulation, just something to remind me. Okay, and then this is how we create a new code. Good. Now when we create a new code, we are basically adding extra items to it to actually get us going. We want to add new fields, and some of the fields we need is the created by ID, created by, and the slug. These are all available in our code model here. That any field you try to add that is not defined in the schema will be automatically dropped without any warning or whatever errors whatsoever. This is how we read a slug, or we read our code. In fact, the implementation was streamlined in such a way that there is no need for going to view detailed pages where we're gonna have only the unlisted items. Everything shows here, and then we can play with it as much as we want. By just tapping on it, we're able to toggle between stolen or not stolen, and then we have the delete icon here, which can help us delete whatever we have. And that all is happening with this. These are API endpoints, and these are handling whatever transaction we want to happen in the front end. When it comes here, that is what is happening. Okay, So that basically explains what is going on with our Memfa application. That's how our APIs are basically set up, and the principle is the same thing irrespective of what application you are building. That is how APIs are built. So in the next section, we're going to consider how authentication is working, and see how we actually let users log in and log out of our application. The entire code of this project can be found on GitHub. You can check out github.com/Sean Marvley, and you're going to find all the codes there. So we'll see you in the next one, where we talk about authentication, and hope you join me for the next one. Thanks. Bye.